So, all that housekeeping being done, let me introduce you to a very good friend of mine. He is hailing all the way from Canada. Like I always say, he thinks a Canada Goose can whoop a bald eagle's ass, and it's your job to remind him why he's wrong. Please welcome to the stage, Toolman Tim.
How'd everybody sleep last night? We're all right? I was a little worried. Everybody was looking a little droopy-eyed this morning, like we maybe drank a little too much or just had a little too much. No? Okay. Are you sure? Okay. I was going to say, I normally open up the line in the morning, how do you tell the Canadian? He's the guy up here in a t-shirt with no sweater. Then I look over at John Willis and he's wearing a t-shirt and shorts. So that doesn't work. So anyway, thanks for having me. How many of you guys have heard me speak before? Oh, okay. Well, I'm just sorry if I disappoint you today. So we're all right. We're going to talk about some heavy stuff. We're going to talk about some things that my wife and I have been through over the years. We're going to talk about murdering, killing, pulling the plug, curb stomping, the poverty mindset. That's what it ends up coming down to. This is a term that I learned from John Willis, but I learned from the School of Hard Knocks as well. I maybe didn't know what it was called when we started, but I certainly know what it's called now. So let's get started. We're going to visit a little boy right here. And anybody have an idea already of what the poverty mindset might be? Okay, good. So sometimes it can be an excuse, but we're going to get into it. So we're going to leave this little boy right here. We're going to tell you a story about a little boy whose father died when he was 7, 8 years old. He was a barber, and he was an alcoholic. And they lived in the deep south, and they had less than zero money. And when he passed away, his mother had even less money, absolutely nothing. And so what they did, she said, well, I got to send you to live with your grandmother. And again, she said, I don't have any money. I'll take care of him. Did absolutely everything she could to raise him right. But he was raised poor, broke, came from the hardest community that you really could. If anybody ever had an excuse for embracing the poverty mindset and saying, hey, guess what? This is something that it's okay to embrace the poverty mindset. It's okay that you're not going to do great things. If there ever was, it's that boy right there. We're going to let him sit right there. We're going to come back to him in a little while. But that is kind of the idea of where the poverty mindset comes from. When you are born somewhere, losing everybody. Where are you going? No, it's okay. I'm just giving you a hard time. I must smell bad. It's all right. No, it's good.
It's not that bad.
No, I thank you. Appreciate it, Kyle. So, all right. So anyway, we're going to go back to Alberta. Then we're going to go further back to Nova Scotia, where my wife and I first met, way back 2005. And anybody know the easiest way to go broke?
Farming.
Oh, that's close. Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, that's the exact answer I was looking for. Have kids. So we had them in bunches. We ended up having 5, but at the time we had 3. And we were living off of $1,100 a month. That's all we had, which, even 15 years ago wasn't a whole lot. And we had a electrical bill that was high. We made so many bad decisions. I was working at a hardware store, and when you don't even know something's your own fault, you make all these decisions. Anybody know somebody like that, where everything bad that happens to them is their own fault, but it's always the world's against them? Yeah, okay. That was us too. So eventually, 2-3 years, we were struggling. Becky said, honey, we need to do something. We need to make our life just a little bit better. We need to improve it. So, we had more kids. That's right. Thank you very much. So anyway, we ended up we took a job sight unseen all the way across the country, which would have been the equivalent of going from, say, Maine to Montana, doing the exact same thing that I already did. And you know what we had to do to get there? Sell everything we owned. All we had left was what would fit in a 2005 Grand Caravan, right, baby? I always have her here, so I get to pick on her when she's here. So we went out. 6 months later, we realized this is not for us. And now, guess what we had to do? Head back home with our tail between our legs, with even less money, even less things. We made another mistake. We were trying. We knew we needed to improve our life a little bit, but we didn't know what we were doing. And at the time, I was working in a hardware store, working 70 hours a week, making $13 an hour. It was not the greatest job in the world. But I always looked at a guy, his name was Dean. And, at the time, I would always kind of look down on him and I think, why does this dude work so hard? He works hard for everything. And he was the type of guy who was an assistant manager. As soon as the store would close up at night, he would end up cleaning the floors because he had the contract to do the cleaning. And when the cleaning was done, what would he do? He would head off and he would go home and he'd work at the convenience store that him and his wife had. They would work from sun up to sunset. And I used to turn my nose up at him and I thought, wow, he's got all this nice stuff. I couldn't figure out that the hard work was equaling the success. I just looked at him and I looked down my nose at him and I thought, I don't get it. Anyway, something was starting to turn in my head. I was starting to realize, man, there's something wrong here. We need to do more. So he had a cleaning contract. I said to Becky, why don't we try this? So we started putting together, I'd never done this before, and I put an entire contract together for the local fire department. They were looking for somebody to do the cleaning. So we spent hours. I learned a lot from it, and we never heard back. I thought, what's going on? Turns out that the firefighters, the fire chief's niece ended up getting the contract. That's okay. But I learned from it. We knew we had to do something. So then, of course, we were digging ourselves in a bigger hole. You ever hear the old saying, how do you dig yourself out of a hole? Well, the first thing you got to do is set the shovel down, right? And we just continued to make bad financial decisions. We were embracing the poverty mindset at the worst level. So we thought, hey, what do successful people do? They buy houses. No, that's not right, Tim. You're putting the cart before the horse. But we decided that's what we were going to do. So we bought a 130-year-old home down on the Bay of Fundy. Beautiful old place, but it was falling down around it. Do you guys remember that movie Money Pit with Tom Hanks? Yeah, they bought the rights from us for that story. So anyway, we bought a house. We didn't have the money. We basically had to borrow the money to get the down payment, and we didn't have the money to fix it. We were just digging ourselves a bigger and bigger and a bigger hole. And at that point, I kind of had a breakdown, and I decided I couldn't do what I was doing anymore. So I went to doing phone sales for a bit, and eventually we were at the point where the lights were going to get turned off. I don't know. We were in a rough spot. So we had in-laws that lived in Alberta, and they said, hey, Tim, why don't you come out here and work in the oil patch? They said, if you can fly out here, we'll give you a place to sleep. Just a little fold-up cot in the living room. Oh, well, that's great. I can do that. They're paying really well. And I just kind of got quiet, and we didn't even have enough money for the plane ticket to fly out there. It was $250. I had to borrow half of it in order to fly. So we went out, and we kept digging, we kept digging. We got to Alberta, and times were good. This was the first time we were actually making some real money. 5 months I slept on that couch. 5 months, Becky was home in a 130-year-old house with 5 kids. 2 were twins under the age of 2, holding that together while I was trying to build the life we needed to live. And you'd think we'd learn from our mistakes, right? Anybody think we learn from our mistakes?
No.
How are you not dead?
Why would you say that? I'm just kidding. It's all right.
How are you not dead? How did you not kill
Because
yourself?
you're
I don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. I would love to. So, anyway, I get a job. I'm making $30 an hour working the oil patch, which was great. She comes out. She's getting a job working as she'd handle the phone calls, a dispatcher for the oil patch. It was great. We were doing good. A full year in. And we're like, we're fine. We got some of our old bills paid off. We're doing well. We figure, hey, we finally figured this out. So what are we going to do? We're going to celebrate. We're going to take a trip to Las Vegas. Everybody always laughs at that. Jack's shaking his head. He's like, what an idiot. So again, we thought we were doing the right things, but we hadn't really embraced the abundance mindset. Here's the best part. This is the first time in our real life that we were, in our adult life, that we were actually making a good amount of money. So Becky takes a week's vacation. She takes a day off to tie everything up before we go to Vegas. And her boss calls her and says, hey, would you mind dropping by? We just have a little meeting we have to do. I know you're on vacation, but would you mind? So she goes in and they're like, hey, yeah, we don't need your services anymore. Later off. That was the day that the worldwide price of oil collapsed. And within a year, I was unemployed too. So we were back, maybe even worse than square one at the time. And so I thought, what do I need to know? And of course, I've said this many times, but abject poverty is a great motivator. And so I had to learn a lot of things over the years, how to fix things, how to fix up weed whippers, how to install windows, because I couldn't afford to pay somebody to do it for me. And so I thought, well, I certainly don't want to go back to working in a hardware business, so why don't I start a handyman business? And then I lived happily ever after. No? Okay, good. I'm glad. All right. I was just making sure you guys caught that. So, no, a year later, I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't doing enough business, so you know what I did? Went back to working in the hardware business for like the 4th time, something I hated. But the difference this time was we realized we had to change things. We absolutely did. So what did I do? Evenings, weekends, early mornings, I was clearing snow. I was doing hardware, any handyman jobs I could do. I was trying to build the life we needed to live. I finally realized that you can't just sit around and wait for good things to happen to you. You can't sit around and stop making excuses. You can't keep making excuses for all the bad things that happen to you. You need to take responsibility. So a year to the day, I walked away from that job. I had a full-time income from a handyman business, and actually August 31st of this year I just sold that business, which was an incredible thing. We now have almost 3 daycares that we've spun off from it, a property management business, some property that we own, and all because I was willing to get on the flight, borrow 100 and whatever it was dollars, sleep on a recycled hospital cot. I didn't mention this, but it was in the living room of my in-laws' mobile home. They had a new baby, and my mother-in-law was there too, so you can imagine how much fun that was. But we had to jump on the plane and handle it. Here's the thing. Go back to 3 months, 4 months ago, something like that. We were in a hotel, and we have built the life we want to live. We really are. We are living it now, which is what we need to do, and that's what embracing the abundance mindset is. 3, 4 months ago, I'm laying in the hotel room. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning, and we have a group, my workshop community, we call ourselves Delinquents. We have a Telegram group, and Tori said, hey, you guys know that John Willis feller? He's a little scary, isn't he? I'm like, well, not once you get to know him. He's a pretty cool dude. But she said, he always talks about the poverty mindset, but he talks so fast I don't always get it. And she said, I think I'm suffering from that. What exactly does it mean? And all of a sudden I'm laying in bed at 6 o'clock in the morning, I think it was a Tuesday, and I am just thumbing out a response, like 4, 5, 6 paragraphs worth, giving myself a good case of, carpal tunnel or something like that. And I ended up realizing there's nothing I'm more passionate about than talking about the poverty mindset. And then, I don't know if he's here right at the moment, but Brian Alexovich from the Lots Project, he's a smart ass. He says, Tim, if you hadn't have killed the poverty mindset years ago, you wouldn't have the ability to be at a hotel on a Tuesday at 6 o'clock in the morning chatting with all these great people that you've created the community from. So that's where it all started. I realized, hey, this poverty mindset thing has been a struggle for us for a lot of years, and it's time for us to figure it out and to share it with other people. So she said, how do I recognize it? What do I do? And I told her it's kind of like a painting. I can't always tell you what a beautiful painting is composed of, but when I point at a painting, you know what a good painting is. I can say, hey, that's a beautiful painting right there. And it's a lot like that with the poverty mindset. And it's not just a mind shift, because you always have the name it and claim it gospel. Somebody says, if you just believe, everything good's going to happen. Well, all the poverty mindset is, oh, Jack, thank you very much. See, he told me he was going to come up here and heckle me, so I appreciate it. But no, it's true. That's what a lot of times people look at the poverty mindset as a mantra. And if I can kill the poverty mindset, if I just believe it, I'll be good. No, that's just the first step. The first step is believing you can do this shit, and then getting up off your ass and doing it. Every day, every day, every day. That's the difference. Everybody says, hey, I'm going to just switch my mindset, and that's going to be it. No, no, no. That's just the first step. You're like the lion in the cage. The lion who's always lived in a cage, in a zoo. He's never known freedom. He probably doesn't even know that he isn't free. He ends up, one day, the zookeeper comes along and says, hey, we're going to go play in the field for a while. So he goes around and runs around and has fun for the entire day. And finally the zookeeper says, all right, back to the cage we go. And guess what? There's nothing more sad in the world than a lion who's been out in the field, running around, known freedom, and gone back. So if you're going to listen to the rest of this presentation, you guys are going to be that lion who gets to go out and play in the field. Once you know about the poverty mindset, you're going to be miserable if you sit around and try to ignore it after that. So, how do we recognize it? We got to go down the hill. We got to be a little bit negative, so I apologize that we have to go through kind of some dark territory here before we get up to the good stuff. But I need to explain to you, because everybody hears it differently, everybody speaks it differently. So we're going to go through what the poverty mindset looks like to you, or to me. So the first one, and I'm going to pick on my wife again, I always love this. This is the one, so when you hear it, you know it. The world is against me. Anybody know the world is against me type? Doesn't matter what I do, the world's against me. That is common today. And when I met Becky, she said, honey, I want to marry you, but you need to know something. She said, you need to know about the Cooper curse. I said, what in the world is the Cooper curse? And that's her maiden name. She goes, just so you know, my family, whenever anything good starts happening, eventually the shit hits the fan and it all falls apart. She said, as long as you're okay with that, I'm good with it. And I said, I don't believe this. I don't believe it at all. Until we moved to Alberta and she got laid off and I'm like, I think no, it's all right. But when it comes down to it, that's what it is. The world is against me. So many people it's the mindset today. It's not my fault. It's where I was born. It's not my fault. The world is against me. Or it's just the way it is here. Anybody know the Trailer Park Boys?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, no, that's true. Jalapenos, right? So that, believe it or not, that was filmed only a couple of hours away from where I grew up. Now you're saying, oh, that explains a lot, doesn't it, Tim? I practically lived in areas like that, but I knew people like that. And Ricky's dad, he's an old truck driver, and he just goes, you just got to accept it. That's the way she goes, Ricky. That's the way she goes. It's just the way it is here. Where I grew up, everybody just embraced the poverty mindset. It was almost a badge of honor. And so nobody ever wanted to do anything great with their lives or build anything because it's just the way it is here. You guys remember that modern philosopher, Marshall Mathers? Anybody? Okay, good. All right. Eminem, he did a movie called 8 Mile many, many years ago. And there's a great line in there. I think he's sitting in the back seat and everybody's like, you always just need to stop shooting for the stars. You got to stop living up here and start living down here. And if anybody ever looks at you and tells you like that, slap them in the face and run away. I'm telling you, do it, because you don't want to be around people like that. That's right. Just knock them out and run away, because that's the poverty mindset. It's just the way it is here. No, that's the wrong answer. Every single time. How about if I was born rich? For some reason lately, everybody has been obsessed with Nepo babies. Anybody even know what they are? Okay, you do. I didn't. I had to look it up. I heard this weird word one day. And it's this whole Hollywood concept where everybody's worried about nepotism, where so-and-so's daughter gets a job because so-and-so. So what? I had somebody tell me one day, well, if I was given a $100,000 loan from my parents, I could turn it into a business just like Jeff Bezos. Well, yeah. What's he got, a $100 billion business? So I'll give you a $1,000 loan, you can turn it into a $100 million business. Like, it doesn't matter. This entire presentation, what I'm talking about, is not about looking at somebody else and thinking, well, they have excuses for doing good things or excuses for not doing good things. This is about you guys improving your station in life. Because everybody always says, well, it's not fair. I was born here, I was born there. Well, guess what? Everybody's born with the same opportunity to improve their life. You may or may not be able to improve it to a high level, but every single individual that's here has the opportunity to improve their life. And I know that goes against almost everything you hear in the news and the media today, and I'm just going to say it, it's all bullshit. You need to know. Absolutely. Thank you, brother, whoever that was. If I was born rich, well, I want to tell you something. My father, he worked in the grocery business his entire life. He had 2 brothers. Their names were Harry and Stanley. Worked with them from the day he started till the day he retired. Harry started out as a box boy or a bag boy, then a produce manager. Then he got up to the grocery manager. Then he bought the grocery store. Then he sold that one and built a bigger one. And then he built a piece on. And then one day, this multinational corporation comes in and they're like, hey, guess what? We want to buy you out. No, sorry. What they said was, we're going to buy you out. There's a big difference, right? They said, you need to go home tonight and you need to pick a price. And you need to tell us what it is you want for this business. So he went home and he thought of the highest price he could ever think of, and then he doubled it. And he walked in and they gave it to him in 3 minutes. He always told Dad, he said, I wish I should have went higher, but anyway. Now, Harry was born in a valley community, a rundown, I'm sure everybody knows these type of communities, the ones where people aren't expected to do anything with their lives, right? Stanley, his brother, born in the same family to the same parents. Stanley didn't do much with his life. Stanley just kept doing what he was doing, and he would always sit around and make excuses. Stanley would occasionally try to start a business, and he would end up, he started a convenience store one time, and he liked to smoke the cigarettes and scratch the tickets more than he liked to pay his bills. He just couldn't keep a business going. And he was constantly reaching out to his brother, and he would say, Harry, could you give me a loan? I just need a little bit to get by. And eventually Harry got tired of it, and he cut him off. And one day, Dad and Stanley were in the grocery store, sitting in the break room, and Stanley looked at him and he goes, don't understand. He said, Harry has all this money, I have nothing, I just want what I'm entitled to. What in the world ever possessed that man to think that $1 of Harry's money he was ever entitled to? But that is the poverty mindset. And I don't mean that any of you guys suffer from any of those individually, but what you're going to find is these things start to creep up. And if you see people who embrace this kind of thing, you end up wanting to run away from them altogether. Another one I love is, I'd be a millionaire if, right? Anybody know somebody who did an invention, or they claim that they invented, remember yeah, that was my idea. You always meet somebody, back in the 80s, I thought about the idea of turning the lights on. I'd be a millionaire if I patented it, right? I know a guy who every time I see him, he says, you know that thing on the grain loader? It's like a flexible bucket. I invented that. If I'd have patented, I'd be a millionaire. So what? You didn't. Move on. Get over it. That's what it comes down to, right? It's true. When I was 16 years old, I had the greatest idea in the world to open up a self-storage business in my hometown. I didn't do it. A guy did it, made a mint off it. Good for him, right? The best one is must be nice. We're going to talk about this for a minute. Must be nice. Jack likes it. So one day, anybody here from a small town? Thank you. Okay, so everybody who's from a small town, you say, I'm going to the city. I heard Dawn say that the other day. She said, we moved to the city. And everybody locally knows what the city is. It's a different city everywhere. Right, yes. So everybody knows what the city is. So whenever we go to the city, guess what happens? People say, could you pick us up something at Costco? So everybody knows. Or how about this one? I was on Facebook Marketplace the other night. This really cool item. Could you stop and pick it up for me? So the easiest way I found to stop that was to say, yeah, you come with me and you can go get it. And a lot of times they just don't want to do it. But this one time the person said, yeah, I'll go with you. Okay, all right, good enough. So this is a relative who will remain nameless for certain reasons. You'll find out in a minute. And we pull into this place. I don't even remember where it was, what they were getting at the time. But I watch them and they're having this grand old conversation. They look like they're having an incredible conversation. 15, 20 minutes go by, they finally hop back in the truck with me, and I'm like, hey, must have been a nice person in there, really nice. And they look at me and they go, you wouldn't believe it. What? Said, her and her husband, they started an excavating business, and he sold it, and they're multimillionaires. When he passed away, she was taken care of. And this person, that disdain is just coming out of them. They're just dripping off them. It's awful. And I'm thinking, well, that sounds like it's a pretty good thing. They're successful. They own properties all over. She travels all she wants. And when her husband died, guess what? She was taken care of. And this person turns and looks at me and they go, must be nice. And that, right? That is the most, if there is one thing in this world that will tell you somebody suffers from the poverty mindset, it is those three words right there. That has become a mantra in our workshop community. When anybody does something really good, Kyle or Brian will say, must be nice, Josh and us, because that's our way of encouraging one another. That is our mantra. Must be nice means, hell yeah, it's nice. I've built a little fortune. I'm doing my life. I'm homesteading. I am raising rabbits or chickens or whatever else. I've built all kinds of different businesses. Must be nice. Hell yeah, it must be nice. Of course it is. But if you ever meet anybody, that is where it comes from. The day I was doing this presentation at LFTN, Becky went into a gas station to get a couple of drinks for us. And I kid you not, we were getting ready to do this presentation. The lady was sitting there. She looks at somebody pull in with a BMW and she goes, must be nice. I was like, couldn't help it. It was just the end of it right there. What do all of these do? Every one of these sayings, they give you permission to be lazy. It's just the way it is here. Well, I guess I won't do anything. If I had the money, well, I guess I don't need to do anything. If I was born rich, well, I guess I don't need to do anything. That's what it is. Everybody, what do they say? An object in motion likes to stay in motion. An object at rest likes to stay at rest. And that's exactly what it is. If you embrace the poverty mindset, it gives you an example or a reason to just sit at home and not do it. Not do the thing. It gives you a reason not to get up at 4:30 and go around and do all the chores. It gives you a reason not to go from 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock, noon, 2 o'clock to clear snow on your coffee breaks and your morning breaks simply because you want to build the life you live. That is the laziness. 2 more things to look out for when we're doing this. 2 phrases. I don't and I can't. Once you've embraced the fact that, hey, I'm not gonna embrace these poverty mindsets a bit, there's gonna be these words that are gonna keep coming up on your shoulder. You guys remember Bugs Bunny? You're not falling asleep on me out there, are you? We all good? All right, good. All right, Bugs Bunny, you remember back in the 60s, whenever that cartoon came out, whenever Bugs was trying to decide whether he should do something or not, you get that little angel over here, you get that little devil over here, you remember? Yeah, okay, good. That's what I don't and I can't is. I don't, I can't. It's that damn little red devil sitting right there. Say, it's okay, stay at home. Stay at home and watch the ball game. You don't have to do something great. It's okay. When, this is a great example of this. One time when I just started my business, I was probably a full year into the snow removal. I had what I call my horrible, no good, very bad day. It was bad. And the 4-wheel drive went out in one truck. I left the lights on in the other one, it was dead. The winch went on the 4-wheeler, so I couldn't use my plow. Didn't have a snowblower at the time, I just had all hand working equipment. It was a really bad day. So I went in to the living room and I sat down and I said to Becky, I quit, I'm done. She just looks at me and smiles. Okay, sure honey, no problem. And I'm trying to lament to her and tell her how bad my day is and how shitty everything is, and she's just sitting there going like this, going like this. I'm like, are you not even listening to me? And she looks at me and she goes, go pick up a snowblower. I said, I can't. Number 1, we have no stores in town. Number 2, the snow is to the roofs and I can't drive out of town to go get a snowblower. She goes, oh, I found a guy across town, brand new, has never used it, it's been sitting there for 5 years, go give him $800, you get it. I was like, damn it. I don't and I can't. How about how can I? How can I? How can I make it happen? Joel Riles, I had him on my show just a little while ago, the dog dude. If there was ever a man who had an excuse to just sit by and let life carry him away in the current, it was him. But I had him on my show and he said, you know what? Here it is. You come to a great big boulder in the middle of the road and you have 1 of 2 options. You can say, I can't get over it, or how can I? How can I go around it? How can I go over it? Or how can I blow the thing to smithereens and walk right through where it was? I don't have the money. Okay, make the money. And I know, that sounds rough, doesn't it? But I'm just going to say it. Jack says, Joel, again, I love using him as an example, but his daughter came to him one time and said, hey, I want to start a dog raising business like you. And he said, okay, here's your money. She wanted a big loan, like $50 or something. He goes, go start a lemonade stand. Right? So I didn't have the money to start a daycare, did we, hon? Not even close. We barely had the money to pay our hydro bill, did we? And so I started a handyman business. That was a service business that required no investment, it just required time. So then I started doing and making money, and then we took that money and turned it into the daycare. So we went from I can't, we couldn't start something like that, to how can I? Start walking around, try to flip it on its head and go from there. I can't afford it, I don't have the time. I promise you, nobody has the time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day. Everybody asks John Willis, how the hell do you get everything done? He has the same 24 hours as I do, the same 24 hours as you do. For me, I wanted to build a great YouTube channel. Well, actually, no. What I wanted to do was have a release to talk about tools because my wife was tired of hearing me. But eventually I decided I could turn this into something. So I had to make a decision one day. How in the world am I going to do this? Now, this may not work for everybody, but you guys will see. I'm a Blue Jays fan. And you're like, Blue Jays, a Canadian that likes baseball? That's really weird. So for me, I looked at it and I said, I have no time. Well, guess what? For the last 5 years before that, I was spending 3 to 4 hours a night, 162 games a year watching baseball. Now, that doesn't mean give up baseball, but that means I found myself 400, 500, 600 hours right there that I was able to put into something. Nobody has the time until they find the time. A good old pastor of mine, his name was Mr. Den Hollander, an old Dutch guy, I believe. He used to always say, a person makes the time for the thing that's most important to them. And that's what it is. If you want to build something great and you don't have the time, you got to find it. You got to look at it and say, where can I squeeze another hour out? Maybe talk to your wife and say, honey, I need an hour in the morning, an hour at night. If you can do that 5 days a week, that's 10 hours. What can you build that is absolutely great with 10 hours a week? How can I? Ask yourself, is it worth it too? Because not everything is. Look at what you're doing and say, Is this worth it? Should I be doing this? Am I hanging out in the right spot? Am I putting my time into the thing that is absolutely what needs to be done? Now, I want to tell you, it's another story. And of course, most of what I know comes from the poverty mindset. It comes from my hometown where I was born. That's Digby, Nova Scotia, just this little tiny town. Like I said, if you picture Ricky and Julian and Bubbles on the Trailer Park Boys, it wasn't too far off from that, was it, honey? No. So, I had a family that I knew. I was best friends with one guy. There was 4 kids, 2 brothers, 2 sisters. And they came from that family. Every town has a family, you know, the family that is the poorest of the poor. The one that people maybe make fun of, the one that never really do anything, the one that you wouldn't even go into their home because it's probably so dirty, you know? I ended up being best friends with the oldest boy in that family. You look at that family, and it ended up, they had 2 daughters. The one daughter, the oldest daughter, she ended up embracing the poverty mindset. It was funny, I actually had an interaction with her on social media the other day, and I had to look just to see, and it's the same. It's unfortunate. She's just like her mom was, and it is what it is. The youngest daughter, she embraced work a little bit, but for the most part, 3 minutes? 30 minutes, thank you. All right. She embraced the poverty mindset, but she did a little bit. She started coming along, but honestly, without being mean, she basically turned out kind of like her mother. Then the brothers. The youngest brother, he did pretty good. He found himself a girlfriend, he moved out of town, he got a decent job, and he did okay. My best friend, the one that I was really close with, what happened with him? He met a woman, he got a good job, they bought a house, they moved away. He works as a manager at a grocery store. He grew up in that exact same home, the 4 of them. How does that work? How do you have 4 kids in the same home, and all 4 of them, you got 2 who just decide to do absolutely nothing with their life whatsoever, and 2 who do what you would define as great things considering where they came from. That's what it is. Absolutely everybody today says, it's not my fault. It's the way it is here. I'm broke. If I had this, if the government would give me this, if, does not matter. If big business would just stop, if Jeff Bezos, if Bill Gates, if. But they didn't say if. You got 4 people in that family. 2 of them did what I would call great things, and 2 of them did exactly what their mother said, or what their mother showed them. How does that work? I don't get it. So how do we flip the script? Because, all right, everybody take a big breath with me here. All right, do you remember my mantra, must be nice? All right, we're going to work on that. So I want you guys to embrace that a little bit. So we've done the heavy lifting. We've gone through the valley. We've done the shitty stuff. So we're going to talk about this. How do we flip the switch? All right, Tim, I've embraced the poverty mindset. What do I do now? Well, the first thing you do is start getting excited for other people. Because when you get excited for other people, you might say, but Tim, I don't want to. I'm grumpy. Well, that's cool. So was I. I used to hate it when people got successful. Somebody thought I was funny back there. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So you get excited. You start, when people come to you, and Kyle calls me and says, Tim, I just had my first video on TikTok blow up. Yes, good for you, brother. Get excited. Even if you don't feel like it. Even if your next door neighbor just built a business and you still don't really like him because he dropped his pear tree over your fence. No, I don't know. I'm just completely not specific whatsoever. But seriously, get excited for people, because that's the first thing. When you start getting excited, you may not feel it at first, but fake it till you make it. Start getting excited, because it will become contagious. And then eventually, you'll want to see other people succeed. But start getting excited for other people. Next, everybody's got to realize it's all your fault. Okay? And I don't mean all the bad shit that's happened to you in life. But you know what is your fault? Anybody want to guess?
How you react to it.
Thank you, Darylyn. How you react to it. 100%. That's what it comes down to. It's all your fault. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but we have one choice. Everybody has a choice. What do I do when I get up in the morning? Do I sit there? Do I wallow in self-pity? Or do I get up, get shit done, and build the life that I want to live? What do you do? It's all your fault, but that's okay, I promise. Bad shit happens. We need to know that, right? It just does. At some point, bad things are going to happen. At some point, you're going to have a terrible, no good, very bad day in business, and you need to make it work. You just do. You just have to get up. I asked Joel again, I said, dude, how do you stay motivated? And he kind of kicked my ass that day on the show. I love that show. It was one of my favorite ones. He said, I don't. I'm not motivated. I get my ass out of bed, I work out, and then I find the motivation once I start. That's how it is. You want to build a business, you want to be motivated, you want to do great things, you start, and then you find the motivation afterwards. Because bad stuff happens. Stop listening to the world. This is a good one. I love this one. It's one of my favorite, but everybody loves CNN? Okay, there. It's like, is he seriously saying that? Right? Yeah. Shut it off. You know what I mean? If you hang out at a bar, if you're whatever, bar flies, this could be, I hate to say this could be at the local gun shop where all anybody ever does is complain about what insert bad politician is doing here. Get away from them because they're going to kill you. They are going to drag you down. They are going to embrace the poverty mindset 100%. Change yourself, change who you surround yourself with. Good people, bad people. The first thing you want to be is not the best person in your people group. You want to be the person, I've learned this from John Willis a bunch of times, you want to be grabbing and crawling and pulling yourself up to better people. Surround yourself with the people you want to be, and then surround yourself with the people you want to be after that. And it's okay to leave other people behind. Because I want to tell you, somebody that might help you right now might be a hindrance in 3 months. In 3 months, something might change, and they might look at you and they might say, must be nice, right? So, move away from it. Get away from it. Change where you spend your time. I've told you that already. Figure out a way to put it into good things. If you want to build a business, you say, hey, I got 10 hours a week to build this business, but I have no customers. Well, you know what you do? You go to YouTube University and you learn how to wash windows, you learn how to clean gutters, you learn how to install siding. Whatever it is, spend your time on those things. You agree? I like it. Love it. Here's the next one. What's that?
What's a gutter?
A gutter? It's like an eaves trough?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a Canadian word. I appreciate All right, here's the one. Take fucking risks, okay? That's what it comes down to. There's the F word that I didn't use in Midwest Preparedness out of respect for the community. I know! Take fucking risks. There, it's twice. But absolutely you have to. How many times, probably at least 3 times in my life, my wife looked at me and said, honey, walk away, walk away. And there's twice in my life that I've walked away from a job with 0 notice because I was so burnt out. I used to tell people, you need to build your side hustle really slow and save your money. And then when you're ready, yeah, you liked that, didn't you? Then when you're ready, you pull the plug and you go and then you build your business. Well, that's not how I did it. That's not how Nicole did it. That's not how a lot of people do it, because most people end up, Jack, where's Jack? Yeah, he's not. Anyway, that's how Jack Spirko did it. The only dude I know who actually did it that way. Everybody else walks across the bridge, drops the match, and watch it burn. Everybody hops off the boat, lights the damn sails on fire, and watches it burn, baby. Because that's how life works. Sometimes you have to have a little bit of desperation to realize that this is what you need to do in life. Invest in yourself, guys. Invest in time. Spend the time building something you want to live. Invest in relationships. Invest in meeting people that is going to work absolutely for you. An investment, when you do that, an investment implies a return over time. And this is the crazy thing. When you start embracing the poverty, back up. When you start, do you like that? Must be nice, hey? Up here talking and friggin' up everywhere. So here's the thing about when you embrace the abundance mindset, that old poverty mindset's going to keep crawling back on you. You're going to take that, you're going to drag it out in the street, and you're going to curb stomp it right there. And you're going to say, it's done. I did it. And then you're going to get a text message in the Telegram group from Tori, who's going to say, Tim, I want you to share this. I was doing really good. I had embraced the abundance mindset, and guess what? The old poverty mindset started crawling up again. Said I got a call from the hospital, and I had to go in and pull the plug on the poverty mindset again. Because that's what happens. It just keeps coming back. You can go down there and you can think you put the headshot in and somehow it glanced off its forehead. Had a real thick skull like me. Kyle knows. It's like trying to put down a hog, right? That's what happens. You think you've got it, you think you've killed it. That thing could have been dead and it comes right back up like the Walking Dead zombies coming after you again. It's always something that you have to do. Kill it, curb stomp it, get rid of it. It's always going to be a struggle. You guys need to know this. It always is going to be a struggle. And that's okay. But that's where you start. So you guys remember that little boy that we said over here? When we started, the little boy who had the father who was the alcoholic barber. And he lived in a really poor southern town. His mom had no money. She sent him away to live with the grandmother. The grandmother had no money. That guy right there, he would have absolutely had everything in the world. It would have been his right to say, It's just the way it is here. It's just the way it is here, right? Because that's the way it is. The family that I knew from my hometown, they absolutely would have had the right to say, it's just the way it is here. Stanley? I don't know about Stanley. I don't think there's any hope for poor Stanley. I think he's embraced the poverty mindset his entire life. But that little boy right there, he could have just said, I'm good. I'm going to be an alcoholic barber like my dad and die at 35 with penniless and all of that. But here's the thing. I know I told you guys to turn off CNN, right? But I'm flipping through the channels one night. CNN comes on. And I look up. I'm like, all right, I'll give it 5 minutes. You know who was on that screen? That little boy right there. But he wasn't a little boy anymore, because he was born in the late 40s, early 50s. He had grown up, and he was getting interviewed by Don Lemon. Anybody know Don Lemon? If you do, it's okay. You can forgive me. Just so happens that he was the guy that was interviewing you. Don Lemon was sitting there talking to the guy, and the camera pans over, and it's Morgan Freeman sitting there. The guy that everybody wants to narrate the story of their life. The guy with the most memorable voice in the world. And Don Lemon gets up on his high horse, you know, he's like, what do you say, Morgan, to people who say you just don't understand, it's just the way it is. You know, you always say you got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and do something with your life. What do you say to that? And Morgan Freeman sits there and he gets real quiet like this. And he gets that smile on his face, you know, that kind of smug smile that only an 80-year-old dude can get. And you know this is going to be good. And he looks into the camera and he goes, bullshit. He says, whenever I go back to my hometown or anywhere else, I see people all the time that say, I'd love to do something great with my life. And I look at them and I say, well, do it. And they say, yeah, but you don't understand. You don't know what it's like here. It's tough. It is the worst place in the world to live. And they totally miss the point that it's friggin' Morgan Freeman standing there telling them this. And he goes, well, do it then. And they go, but I live here. I don't know what to do. There's no opportunity. And he looks at the camera again, and this is my favorite. He says, man, the bus leaves every day. So I don't know what your bus is. I don't know what your excuse is. I don't know what your $125 loan to get a plane ticket to fly to Alberta to build the life you need to live. I don't know what yours is, but I damn well guarantee you that every single morning you wake up, there's going to be a bus leaving every day. That means every day you wake up on this side of the sod, you've got an opportunity to build the life you want to live every single day. And it's not about making excuses, it's about looking at where you came from and improving your station in life. It's not about embracing anything or anywhere. It's about saying, hey, yeah, I got the shit end of the deal. So what? Screw it. I'm getting on that bus and I'm going to build the damn life. Doesn't matter if you grew up in a mining town in Pennsylvania. You could have a 250,000 or more listener podcast that people come to listen to. It doesn't matter. 100% wherever you end up growing up, whatever your station is in life today, you can wake up and choose to get on that damn bus and do what you want to do. Thank you, guys. Any questions? We got time for one, or we good?
We probably have time for about 2 questions.
All right, anybody got a question?
Remember what he said about asking questions?
Yes.
Don't be shy.
Right there, go ahead.
Were you and your wife on the same page when you came out of the poverty mindset? Were you together?
No, I would say I was further behind than her. I think she drugged me kicking and screaming. So I would say that having a good, again, don't use it as an excuse, but having a good supportive partner is the answer. But no, I wasn't. It was her. She was always, honey, you can do this. Honey, you can do that. Honey, do this. Honey, you can do this. Honey, you can re-side the entire house. I said, no, I can't. She goes, yes, you can. Now we have a fully sided house. So, go ahead.
So your family or your friends that had all the kids, don't you think the 2 that were successful is because they moved away from the negative family that was beating them down verbally and telling them they couldn't be successful? So if they just detach themselves
100%. They got on.
And got around people that lifted them up.
They got on the bus. They left.
That's
They
right.
did their thing. I've heard it said many times that the ultimate life hack is to move away from your hometown. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but I can tell you damn well that a lot of successful people I know moved the hell away from their hometown. And it's because it's just the way it is here. You grow up, you embrace it, you never see anything different. But as soon as you step outside of that, you realize, shit, there's so much more I can do. 100%. Is that good?
That's good.
Thank you, folks. I really appreciate you.
Give it up for Toolman Tim.